So today we are going to be making for you chocolate ganache. So right there I have a stick-free pan, non-stick pan. We're putting 8 ounces of heavy whipping cream into the pan over a medium to low heat. So we're going to be doing this because we don't want to scald our cream. So when I make ganache, I prefer to use a heavy whipping cream. It has a higher fat content. I believe it makes a much better product, a much better ganache. I love my ganache nice, rich, and thick, stick to your bones kind of ganache. So I use a heavy whipping cream. You are more than welcome to use a regular whipping cream. I've used half and half before. I have gotten creative and used, because I didn't want it so thick, a milk cream mixture. But depending on your application, I'm going to say that depending on your application determines what kind of liquid or what kind of cream you're going to be using. For this one, I wanted a higher fat content. My customer wanted chocolate all around, deep, rich, dark chocolate. So I have my heavy whipping cream. I put 8 ounces of that in there. And we are going to bring it up to temp, at least 100 degrees, in order to melt and temper the chocolate, because the temperature is going to drop a little bit once the chocolate hits the cream. We have white chocolate morsels because I wanted a sweeter tone on top of my 50% cocoa morsels. I traditionally use a semi-sweet, which it's very rich. But again, in this application, I switched it up a little bit because the white chocolate brings in a sweeter and lighter tone on top of that dark heaviness, that dark chocolate. Also, when you want to use equal parts. So here I showed you that's 1 cup. So that's 8 ounces of chocolate morsels of whatever variety for you, whatever suits you. And it's 8 ounces of heavy whipping cream. So when you're weighing liquids, liquids are weighed by volume. They're not by weight. Okay? That's why we have measuring cups. That's by volume. When you weigh a food item, that's a solid food item. It could be any food item. In this instance, it's semi-sweet morsels or chocolate chips. You weigh that by weight. That is not weighed by volume. That's weighed by the actual weight of the product. You do this because if you were to weigh chocolate chips by volume, you're not going to get as many chocolate chips as you need for your recipe. So it'll become a lot thinner. So keep that in mind. Solids, weighed by weight. That's why when it calls for a pound of chicken, you get a pound of chicken. And when you weigh up or measure, I want to say that, measure liquids, it's always by volume. So solid foods by weight, liquids by volume. Equal parts for ganache. So this together will make about 16 ounces of ganache, which is perfect for what I need. Because usually if I have any more, I just eat it. So we're going to stir this around. I took it off the heat. I added the chocolate in there. I stirred it around. You can see that I am not using a whisk. A whisk is bad when you're making ganache because a whisk adds in unnecessary air bubbles. When you pour your ganache, you need that to be a nice, smooth, silky consistency. Okay? And when you have a whisk, that does not do it any justice. So here we transitioned and you could see the chocolate's a little bit darker. So I didn't put in all that video because it was just a lot of video to watch me stir ganache. But I did add some inferior chocolate curls because I wanted it just wasn't looking the way that I needed it to look, which was a little thicker. I needed it rich and thick. So I added some curls. It is an inferior product, and it's going to take a little bit longer to melt because it is an inferior product. It's a little bit more waxy because it's a decorating chocolate. It's not a melting chocolate. So keep that in mind. Make sure you use a quality product. So I'm continuing to stir this. Once it gets to the consistency that we need it, which it coats the spoon, and there's no more lumps, I turn the heat off, and I'm going to add that butter in there. There we go. Butter's ready to go in. It's a good consistency. It's coating the spoon. I don't see any more lumps. But I do have a trick for you. This 1 tablespoon of butter per 8 ounces of whipping cream and 8 ounces of your chocolate morsels. If you do use an inferior product, that butter is going to be able to kind of tone it down and help melt that process and help melt that chocolate to get that process rolling. So that's a little secret. But the butter adds a little richness, a little heaviness, a little bit more fat in there to make this nice and rich. So make sure you get your butter all nice and melted. And at this point, the heat's off. We tempered it. We brought it up to 100. We brought it back down. We brought it back up. We brought it down. Your chocolate's tempered. Look how gorgeous that is. Beautiful. So once it gets that shine from the butter, this is just going to be that extra step. We are going to add 1 tablespoon, and I just did the big squirt, 1 tablespoon of light corn syrup. Yeah. That's going to give it the shine that it needs when it goes on the cake. It's going to be gorgeous. 1 tablespoon for 8 ounces. It's going to be perfect. Okay. You let that stir around, get it all in there. You don't need to put it on the heat. So from this point, you can put it into whatever container you need to pour it on your cake. And voila, chocolate ganache.